So good evening. My name's Phil Bluestein, and I warmly welcome you to tonight's program, The Power of Pause with Christine Francoeur. This program is being offered to you by a local Calgary group that's called Wellness Through Mindfulness. And we established this in September 2015. The intent was to freely offer teachings related to mindfulness and related topics. So historically, we met in person twice a month. But with COVID, we have been very fortunate to partner with the Calgary Public Library. We offer Zoom video meetings the first and third Thursday of the month from 7 to 8:30, and registration is through the Calgary Public Library website. This can also be accessed through the WTM website, wtm.thebreathproject.org. And on that website, we will post all the previous sessions, all the Zoom sessions of the talks and Zoom sessions of guided meditations. And there will be mindful musings and interesting resources related to mindfulness and related topics. There's also a parent sort of website called thebreathproject.org. And on that, we have an animated video and interviews with many talented mindfulness teachers. So I'd like to thank Patrick Mealy for his original invitation to allow us to partner with the Calgary Public Library. And Katie Ratke, who is going to provide our tech support for tonight. So the way the evening is going to be structured is that we are going to have a talk on the power of pause as it relates to mindfulness. And in that, there will also be some instructions for a subsequent guided body scan. After that, we'll have a question and answer period. The program officially ends at 8:30. However, if there are outstanding questions, then we will endeavor to answer all the questions, and we will go over 8:30 if that is necessary. You are obviously free to leave the program at any time you would like to. So let me tell you a bit about Christine Francoeur. And Christine, her path to mindfulness grew from a career in marketing and business development. Top 100 businesses led to a very challenging time. And unfortunately, she was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 33. But this actually turned out to be a very motivating aspect for her. This put the seeds of her mindfulness practice into place. And she pursued her teacher training in yoga and meditation. Her training started locally, but ultimately she became involved in the teacher training program with two world-renowned mindfulness teachers, Jack Kornfield and Tara Brach. So Christine is a very well-trained meditation teacher. She loves bringing the practice to people who are just beginning to meditate, knowing how much mindfulness has helped her. She loves supporting beginners to help find their own practice. Christine has been a wonderful contributor to the WTM, and I'd just like to acknowledge how helpful she has been. She's a wonderful teacher. She's part of our group of people who offer retreats, but even more importantly, she brings a real sense of enthusiasm, support, and ideas. And her participation in the WTM is very much appreciated. So I look forward to Christine's talk because I think she's a wonderful speaker. And I'm sure that all of you are going to learn something that's going to be very valuable in your practice. So Christine, thank you.
Phil, thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's always, you warm my heart every time you introduce me. It makes me feel grateful to be part of such a fantastic team here at WTM, and of course, the original parent of the Breath Project. So hello, everyone. How are you tonight? It's great to see you all on the call. I'm glad that you were able to find some time and join me tonight for this talk. I'm feeling I just have to take a minute because I had some technical difficulties when I chose to log on to my computer and connect. My computer rebooted and then it decided to do an update. So I kind of have the energy of please work, please work. And fortunately it has, and I'm here just under the bell, which is great. Sometimes it all works. So here we are, and I'm looking forward to spending the next hour or so with you talking about exploring the benefit and the power of pause. And as Phil mentioned at the beginning of the talk, or at the introduction, my talk tonight is going to involve an actual body scan. And I just wanted to mention before we get started that being in a position where you can actually lie down to enjoy a body scan can be really beneficial. It allows the body to let go of any held tension. It makes it easier to just listen to my voice. So before you start the body scan, if you are able, I would recommend lying on a nice soft surface like your bed. I don't recommend getting under the covers because I think getting under the covers is actually a cue to the mind to get ready for sleep. I would say pull up just a light blanket, support your head with a pillow. And if you're not comfortable doing that, or you aren't able to bring your listening device into the bedroom, that's okay. You can always do it from like a yoga style perspective, which is to lie on the floor. Maybe you just get a soft blanket and you can position yourself actually on the floor. But a couple of options to consider to prepare yourself for the body scan, but of course, without question, you can practice in a seated position too. If you're going to do the body scan in a seated position, I recommend having a really nice, comfortable chair that allows you to be upright. And a lot of times when we're sitting, we can have that feeling of rounding and moving forward. Maybe our core starts to soften as we relax. So to actually have something long that supports you is beneficial, and having a pillow on your lap so you can actually rest your arms is good too. Because you'll notice that when the hands just rest in the lap, you can actually start to feel some tension just at the base of the neck. So some ideas for you to consider as you prepare yourself for the body scan tonight. But I will make sure that at the end of my talk, I will give you like a couple of minutes just to prepare yourself. Okay. But first, I want to take us on the journey of the body scan and why it's of benefit and why we want to practice. And what I'd like to do right now is just arrive in our bodies together. So a brief meditation to connect with our breath. So just where you are, feel into your body in this seated position. Perhaps lengthening the torso, feeling the crown of the head, reaching up. Feel where you sit in your chair, the weight of the body. And if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. Coming into awareness of the room around you and your space within the room around you. Notice your breath. Just feel where the body is breathing itself, without any intervention or control from you. Just notice, where do I feel the breath in the body? Maybe where it enters through the nose. Maybe the expansion and release in the chest. Maybe you feel it in the lower belly. Comfortably breathing out intervention. Just taking the next few moments to feel how the breath moves in your chest. Bringing your attention to where the breath moves in the left side of the chest. Feeling where the breath moves on the right side. Now feel yourself breathing into the entire chest. Feel how both sides unite, the whole chest united in the movement of breath. And just releasing your attention on the breath. Noticing how you feel in this moment. How are you right now? Just softly open your eyes, coming back to the room and the connection with all of us here on this call together. So tonight's practice is really a reminder for us to begin to connect in again to the power of a pause. So just like that pause we just took for those brief few minutes, and what it felt like to come into the body. I know it felt really great for me to get out of the energy that it took to arrive here, and now to just settle in and be here with all of you. And when we think about the power of a pause, there's an intention behind that. There's an intention to be with ourselves, to really connect in. And if you were to ask yourself, when was the last time I actually spent time alone, like really alone, without texting or phoning or sending emails or listening to a podcast or scrolling, whatever it might be, it's really not that often. And yes, absolutely, we are meant to be social. That is who we are, and we are meant to gather. And yet, of course, there's been the challenges of this pandemic and how that has probably created an urge or a need in us more than ever for that feeling of connection. But really, truly, typically as a culture, we've become overly connected, to our devices. And, I think I heard a statistic not that long ago that 70% of us will take our phones with us into the washroom. No need for hands, but, I'm sure all of us at some point have been guilty, right? So I mention this because we really do need to find the time for ourselves. And being in solitude is good for us. It helps bolster our creativity, our productivity, our happiness. And the research tells us that when we do actually spend some time alone, it brings us to a good state of relaxation. We have stress reduction. It brings a sense of ease and peace. And those are real benefits that can be hard to find, especially for how busy our lives are and the challenges of our world right now. And I know what all of you, or maybe some of you, are thinking, is because I think this too, is like, when will I find that time to carve out that pause for myself between work and kids and life and aging parents? There's a lot of demands on us. And finding that time to make our well-being a priority, really is challenging. We can easily slip ourselves way down the list. And there's no doubt there's a call to be productive and contributing in our world. And absolutely, that's true. And, when we're aligning to our values and where we contribute and our efforts in the world, that's of great benefit. But at some level, if those calls or that need to achieve starts to overcome really what allows us a sense of balance or an ability to listen to, what's important to our true nature, then there's a challenge. And then there is a call to pause. There is a call to listen. And we know we hear this often, that time is truly our most precious gift. And I mean, we've heard that so often that the significance of that actually can be lost when we really think about the days slipping by and the weeks going by and the months that turn into years. And I'm just feeling the nature of that as I get older, and what my mom and my grandmother would say, that our days and our weeks go by quicker than ever. And it's up to us to take those moments, to slow down time, to find those key moments to really be present for ourselves so that we can appreciate what's here right now, to pause, to listen, and to ask ourselves, like, how am I? How am I really? And as a mindfulness teacher, I think that that's one of the greatest gifts that we can find in the practice is if I can help you discover for some moments or some minutes how you can intentionally pause and become less hooked into the mind and the busyness of life that days and weeks and months fly by, that we really do have this opportunity to gift ourselves the practice. And when we start to connect through mindfulness, the body really is a beautiful place to start. And we can spend so much time in our heads, in the stories, in our work, in our planning, and all of that's necessary. All of that needs to happen. But at some point in time, we have to invite ourselves to come back into the wholeness of the body. And when we come into the wholeness of the body, there's an instant connection to the moment, to right now. And as we start to connect into the body, we might start to notice that maybe there's some held tension, maybe there's some contraction, maybe I just had a difficult conversation and I can feel my body's response. And when things are unpleasant, there's no doubt we push it away or we run away from it. And that is absolutely universal. We are built to do that, all of us. We are all conditioned to want to exit when it gets challenging. And when it's pleasurable or there's ease or happiness or joy, we can often feel our need to cling to that and want to hold on to that and do what we can to maintain that level of joy and happiness. But as we know, the path of life offers us both the joys and the challenges. And, we've heard the saying before, perhaps even from some of the teachers on these calls, that we have to remember that the only way out is through. We must have the courage to really be present for our emotional pain if we're going to live healthy and authentic lives, that we're actually present for it. And in order to do that, we have to be able to feel it, to heal it. And emotions have physical and mental aspects. There's thoughts that spin in the mind that can create emotions and body sensations, those messengers in the body, whether we're conscious of them happening or not. Like, for example, when we're angry, we can spend a lot of time in our minds, justifying our point of view or thinking what we should have said, or maybe telling friends or family what happened and continuing to relive the angst and the frustration or the outrage that's come up. And in our body, there's a tense contraction that maybe starts to happen in the stomach or in the abdomen, like we're preparing for a fight. And it becomes more challenging to manage a difficult emotion by working, with our thoughts only, because we're so easily swept up into the thoughts and they just turn into one more and another. And suddenly we've hopped on the train and we're way down the track on that emotional ride. And so thoughts move so quickly that it's tough to transform them. But when we locate and anchor ourselves and feel the emotion in our body, it's so immediate. We can feel right away where anger is in the body. It's like we can be having the reaction. And if we just tune in and saying, what's here now, we'll know right away. And it interrupts that thought. It interrupts the thought so that we can actually turn to the emotion. And if you were at probably my second talk in January, I think it would have been, I talked about a really great technique to help us deal with that when those emotions come up. It's called the soften, soothe, and allow. So in this instance where we start to feel anger in the body and we notice it in our stomach and we can feel that contraction, that maybe this is like a good time that I can think about, okay, can I soften my muscles? Can I release my core? Can I know that I'm okay in this moment? That right now, I can bring some awareness to my stomach. I can soften those. It's almost like a feeling of like warm water. And it's just like a releasing, right? That we can just soften around it. And we're not trying to push away the emotion. We're not trying to deny the situation or what's happening, but it's an acknowledgement of what's here. And it's the invitation to bring that sense of softness around the emotion where we feel it. And then we bring a sense of soothing, a sense of compassion. And well, my favorite way to do that is my hand to my heart. It's just like that reminder that I'm here for myself, and that I might even bring some words to myself that I might say to a friend where like, oh, this is tough, but it's okay. It's okay. It's going to be okay. So give myself that little bit of encouragement, and I'll just find that sense of softness, compassion. And then we remember that the discomfort can be here to make room for it, and that we're not judging it or wanting to push it away, or I'm not turning away to distract myself with something, that I can, to the best of my ability, be with what is here in my body. So that's like a really great tool when, we're experiencing an emotion right in the heat of the moment. That soften, soothe, allow is so great to connect into the body. And I absolutely understand the need to want emotions to go away. And as Phil mentioned to you at the beginning of the call in my introduction, I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was newly married. I was at the peak of my marketing and business career. And, I was 33 years old, and I was highly motivated to, quote, have it all, that I was going to have a really great, successful career, that I would have my family. And, the one meeting that I wasn't expecting to have, was with my doctor discussing, next steps for my cancer diagnosis. And I can remember right after my diagnosis that I just went into fight mode. And, there's the responses that we have. We can, fight or freeze. There's always this response that's happening, and mine was fight. And I quickly made that decision that I would absolutely keep working through my treatments. I would have my surgery, I would work through my treatments, and that this was not going to dictate a change in my life. That as much as I'd been given this diagnosis, that I, was working for a really great company. We were like an up and coming tech company out of Vancouver. And I knew that I was going to keep working, that this was not going to change things for me. And I did that, I would have my chemo treatments, and then I would just keep working until it was time for the next one. And, there was a cumulative effect. In the first treatment, I was still strong, but, after 6 chemo treatments of, the strongest, most intense chemo treatment that they were giving breast cancer patients at the time, there was a cumulative effect. And as my energy started to decrease, and I would go to yoga or meditation, and I could start to feel this whisper of, maybe I should start looking for something else. And maybe this isn't quite the right thing, being with all this stress and pressure. And I can remember joking, and I would come home from my yoga classes and I would feel so good. And I can remember joking with my husband and saying, maybe I should become a yoga and meditation teacher. And, he would look at me in all seriousness and he would say, well, sure, why don't you? And I would smile and laugh and say, no, there's no way I could quit this company. They need me. We're a small company. I've been part of this for so long. Things are really happening. And I was pretty sure that VP role was next. And so over the next 6 months, I kept working and I kept that pace. And when it wrapped up, I thought, okay, we're going to go to Mexico. I'm going to recover on the beach and I'm going to come back stronger than ever. And I did. I felt great. I could feel myself start to revive and my energy level came back. And was Monday morning after our vacation, and I was on a conference call with the CEO, and he started to tell me that he thought it would be a good idea if, instead of working full-time, that I would be moved to a contract role in the company on a part-time basis. And I remember just being shocked, like absolutely shocked. And I continued to listen to him to explain all the reasons why this was good for me and why I would want to do this. And, I just sat there in just this stunned silence, and I could feel just tears starting to stream down my face. And I remember just feeling the anger and the frustration to think that all of a sudden I felt like my contribution hadn't been enough and I was being like downgraded. And I hung up the phone. That was the days before Zoom. And I just said, I'm gonna have to call you back. And I think you can all probably well imagine what my next step was after that. And so I knew that I had been choosing to avoid my diagnosis by continuing to work and pretending that everything was still the same. And that even though I had breast cancer, that I had made this decision to actively turn away from it, that I had chose to spend my days in my head, busying myself and not really facing the fact that I felt betrayed by my body, that I felt like my body had let me down in a way that was so completely unexpected. And there was so much grief there. And so, it was in those months after that phone call and finally having some space that there was so much gift to that, such a gift to that I was so grateful now that I really could get to know myself again and look back and realize that that role wasn't for me and that wasn't the work that I was meant to be doing. So it just gave me some space and I started getting back into my body and forgiving my body and starting to trust my body again after feeling like so betrayed. And so there was a lot. So I really know what it's like to turn away from our body and want to live up here. And I'll be the first to say it's not easy to make our way back into the body, right? And when we make those decisions, whether it's conscious or unconscious, to distract ourselves, there is a call and there will be a time when it's time to come back and when it's time to let go of that inner critic and the judgment and maybe some of the talk that we tell ourselves and the way things need to be, to really start to listen to the way things really want to be, like in our whole self, not in just what our head is saying. And so how did I start to do that? Well, it was with the yoga and meditation and that sweet time of Shavasana, that final resting pose at the end of the practice is where I really learned how to unify my body, to let go of that feeling that I was just my thoughts. And so when we start to bring attention to the body in the present moment, that is such a powerful way to come back to the now, to right now, to what is here, to where we feel tension, to where we feel contraction, to how we're responding. And the more we do that, the more we start to connect in with the body, the better we get at it, and the more space it starts to create for us. And the body scan is such a beautiful invitation to start to do that. So we can come into the body scan, and if it's difficult to come into the body, then maybe we just follow the breath, or maybe we just listen to the sounds of the room, right? Or we can actually make it even a practice to have a soft gaze and to look and notice what's around us. That can be a beautiful practice to do in nature, to just use our eyes to connect with what we see. And so it can be a gradual path. We don't, if the call to do a body scan isn't right for you right now, then it's about just slowly making our way in. And maybe it's just our feet on the ground, or feeling sensations of the hands, the temperature of the body. Are we warm? Are we cool? So understanding that the body's experiences are here, and that when we're awake, it is that feeling of being right here, right now. And that's the pause. That's the gift of stopping. And when we start to learn how to stop and pause, it's from there that we can find ourselves, but we can also take good conscious action, whether that is for conscious speech, or making decisions about how we move through our life and connecting with those that we love. There's so much time in that brief moment where we just interrupt and see, how am I? And if you think back into moments in your life where something was so powerful and so moving, maybe it was like at the birth of a child, or a significant connection of intimacy for someone, you would have been present in your whole body. That's how you were able to really register what was happening. And one of my teachers, Tara Brock, shared this with us, and I find it so helpful. And she talks about Joseph Campbell referring to a circle of awareness. So we have a circle of awareness, and we can think about a line going through the circle. And it suggests that everything below the line is out of our consciousness, out of our conscious awareness. And everything above the line is what we are aware of. And so as we deepen our attention, that line moves, and we start to get more above the line, more in the light of awareness. And so when we're doing our mindfulness practice, or those body practices, we are naturally building that line, or lowering that line, so that we are building our awareness. And the body scan is a great place to begin, coming back to connect into the body without judgment over and over again. And of course, we'll get distracted. And of course, our mind is going to pull us away. And then when we notice, when that mindfulness bell rings, we come back. We come back into the body, and you can listen to my voice, and you can just join again, but without judgment, without being hard on ourselves for getting distracted, and just letting ourselves fall back to that anchor of attention in the body. It's just such a great way. And it was such a good way for me when I was first learning how to come into my body again, to get out of the scatteredness of my thoughts, that the body was just so anchoring. And to this day, it is still my point of peace, my point of ease. When things are challenging for me, it's like right back to my body. It's like, okay, what do I know to be true? What am I feeling? Asking myself, what's it really like right now? And can I be with this? Can I be with what's here right now? And sometimes we can't. And sometimes it's too big, and the sensations feel overwhelming. And so, like I said, we feel where we can. Maybe we go to the hands, we go to the feet on the floor. We just notice the breath. So there's ways that we can build the habit in a gradual path. And I want to just share with you this poem from Donna Falls. And she says, trust the energy that courses through you. Trust, then take surrender even deeper. Be the energy. Don't push anything away. Follow each sensation back to its source in vastness and presence. Emerge so new, so fresh that you don't know who you are. Welcome in this season of monsoons. Be the bridge across the flooded tide and the surging torrent underneath. Be unafraid of consummate wonder. Be the energy and blaze a trail across the clear night sky like lightning. Dare to be your own illumination. And when we're inhabiting our body, our whole self, and we become and feel into this alive field of energy that we really are, we start to feel how we are part of it all. That there's this natural sense of wholeness, that maybe there's really no center, that we can really just let the flow of ourselves move in the whole body. We start to become, just as Donna Falls suggests, our own illumination. But before we come to the practice, I just really want to remind you that it takes time to build our concentration in this practice, and like just go easy on yourself, be that gentle guide. And there can be a sense of trauma in the body or pain, and know that as you move through the practice with me tonight, I'll just ask that you nurture yourself in a way that allows you to experience the practice safely. So, I can't be in the room where you are, and I just trust that, if it's too much, that you'll open your eyes, or you'll just come to your breath, or if you're lying down, maybe you'll be seated, feel yourself sitting on your chair, or if it's too much, you can just rub your hands together to just come back, okay? But the practice itself will be around 15 to 20 minutes, and we'll be journeying through the whole body. You'll just follow my voice, that's all, and just relax. And if you drift off or thoughts take you away, just come back, listen to my voice when you remember. And so we're just teaching ourselves to be present. It takes time. I'm just going to give you a few moments to set up for comfort, and then we'll start in the next couple minutes.